So I know I've mentioned in the past that as I prepare for when I'm preaching, go through the readings and the prayers for the day, because God always has something to say, as Father Joe says many, many times. He always has something to say to each of us, and often it's something different to each of us. And so for this weekend, for me, it was the responsorial psalm. Lord, make us turn to you. Let us see your face, and we shall be saved. So last week I was on retreat in Eastern Point, Massachusetts, out in Gloucester. And that was the message that resonated. It just stuck with me. And as I was there for a few days and kept reflecting on it, it was a message that I really found great consolation in. I found great consolation in the midst of the chaos that was going on that had left me feeling lost and confused in recent months. I'm sure many of you have had times in your life when nothing seemed to be going your way. Periods when you felt that no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't find an answer that satisfied you or the people around you. The Jesuits, the order that runs the Eastern Point Retreat House, calls those periods of desolation, hopelessness, periods when nothing goes according to your plan. And I think that was the key for me, because it was my plan. But you can't seem to find any reason to be hopeful. And that is where I was. It's a place I'm sure many, if not most of you, have been at different times in your life. It's not a great place. But for me, when I finally recognized that I was feeling in a desolate place, it tells me that I've lost focus. It tells me that I'm not seeing God in anything, never mind seeing God in everything, which is what St. Ignatius taught. It's a place that tells me I need to get away, I need to rest, and I need to be more intentional about my prayer life and my relationship with God. That's the core of Ignatian spirituality. It's a simple guide, really, not unlike the guide that Jesus gave us 2,000 years ago. It tells us the things that we should be doing, and as long as we do them, life will be relatively easy. When I first started drafting this, it occurred to me that, so Ignatius was talking to me. But since he lived in the 1500s, I'm sure that the simple guide that he gave us was for all. And I'm sure that many, if not most people, when we find ourselves in those desolate places, would find taking the time to be intentional, taking the time to spend with God, helps get us through it. So Ignatian spirituality is really just another toolkit, another practice that helps us to get in touch with God, to know his friendship and his intimacy. And as we learn to know God better, we also see that our decision-making becomes more God-directed. And those times, those places when we feel hopeless, don't happen as much. So why am I telling you about my retreat? Partly because the opportunity to spend 8 days in Gloucester, Massachusetts, it's an amazing time and an amazing place. It's the one place where I promise you, and I walk outside the building, God is there, and I can always see him. And we all need to find a place where we can go, where we know God is. But more importantly, as I was there, settled into my retreat, I was reminded that while I was away, as we enter into this last week of Advent, the anticipation, and for many, the anxiety that grows around everything that happens in our lives, we are called to be conscious of that period of preparation, and we need to be focused on God so that we can see God in all things. Our relationship with God will grow in friendship and intimacy. Our relationship with God will help us to help others who haven't found God or have turned away from him. And through it all, our decision-making will become more God-directed, and we will find peace. And when all of these things happen, we will all be excited as God makes us turn to him, gives us the opportunity to see his face and be saved.